When traveling, sometimes you get this, other times you get this. As a composer, oftentimes we have to work when we're traveling, so we need some sort of travel rig or travel gear. Today I want to show you my gear. I'm here in Cancun, and today's a rainy day, but either way I'd still have to work. I obviously can't bring all the gear that I have at my studio and home, so how do I work while I'm on the road? Well, let's take a look at my gear. Okay, so let's make a list of the basic gear that you need to work while you're traveling around as a composer. You need a computer, of course. You need some sort of MIDI keyboard. You also need a regular keyboard to enter commands. However, I do have an alternate way of dealing with commands, so I'm not using this keyboard that much. You also need a mouse. I have a touchpad, but you could use any kind of mouse you like. This is a Bluetooth touchpad. You need some sort of way of hearing everything, which would be these headphones here. I've got some Sony ones. They're kind of old and beat up. You need some sort of USB hub so you can plug in many things, including the very important dongle key for your software. You also need some sort of MIDI interface. I'm using a iConnect audio. There are smaller ones, but I'll explain why I use this one. Now, another thing you need that's very important and is underneath all this is a hard drive, which I'm using this FireWire drive. And it holds all my samples, so all my sounds are on that drive. I also use it as a little prop up for my gear a little bit here. And the last part I have here is an iPad, and this is something that I choose to do. There are other ways to do it, but this is what I choose myself, since I use a lot of iPads at my studio at home. So let's go over some of this stuff and find out what each one is and why I need it. Oh, another thing you do need before we go forward, you definitely should bring some sort of power supply and make sure that whatever country you're in that you have the corresponding plug. This is Mexico, so it's the same as United States. Okay, so back to the gear. Computer. Well, in my case, it's an MacBook Air. Why it is off right now is it died on me, so occasionally you have to worry about that kind of thing. It has prevented me from working on this particular trip. Normally, this would be working fine and it wouldn't have these problems, but I do have problems with my iPad, so it does not turn on. Okay, MIDI keyboard. Well, I go with something small. This one happens to have almost full-size keys, which is nice on the hands. It does feel a bit like the keyboard of your laptop. It's made by CME, and it has an octave switch, has a mod wheel switch, which is touch sensitive. It has this is pitch bend up and down and pedal, so you can literally hit the pedal button and start playing pitches. Okay, there are many options out there. There's a new one by Rolly, so I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep this. You know, with travel rigs, a lot of stuff changes often. Okay, mouse. I choose the pad because I can do scrolling and I can do all kinds of stuff with it very easily with my hands. The keyboard itself, I just don't use the commands a lot because of one very important reason. I have all the commands over here on my iPad. So I use something called CBrains. And I'm able to do a lot of the stuff that I need to in Cubase. So let's discuss this iPad for a minute. The iPad consists, the way I've programmed it, with a program called Lemur. I have my faders I need for MIDI entry. Actually, let's list the three things. With the iPad, I have three functions. One, MIDI entry. So that includes these keys and these faders. This is the expression, mod, and vibrato. These three faders and my MIDI is where I can enter notes. I also have key commands. So when I'm working in something called arc, Metropolis arc, I can hit the strings, sustains, or I can hit tremolo, spiccato. Basically, I can get the different articulations. I have arc 2 up here. I have UACC for all my Spitfire stuff. So then I've got all my MIDI entry there. The second function of the iPad is editing. I use something called CBrains by MIDI Kinetics, and I can quickly set the grid in Cubase. I have a transport here where I can go forward, backward, all these different things that I might use with transports. I can edit the rhythm. I can select a specific rhythm within a bar, and I can edit that. I can quickly change the velocities. I can change the legato. I can change the note starts, notes ends, all kinds of things. I can transpose. All the editing features of MIDI are right here under my hand. Then the third function of this iPad is monitoring. So if I need to hear the volume of the mains, or the volumes of the dialogue from the film, or the music that I'm working on. If they've put temp in the film, I've got that here. If they've got other, which could be a track the director sends over or any other thing, and the click volume. All of that is right here on this one iPad. Everything I need right here, from entry to MIDI editing to monitoring, how loud the sound is. All of that goes through the computer and sends it out to the MIDI or the audio interface, which is also a MIDI interface, by the way. Now with the audio interface, that goes out to the headphones, and that is how I hear what's going on. This particular audio interface is interesting. It is a iConnect Audio 2.4, or 2 Plus, I'm sorry, iConnect Audio 2 Plus by iConnectivity. What's great about this is it connects both the iPad and the laptop on the back via USB. That is very particular and very cool. You can see that here. So what that means is I can send audio, MIDI, or any kind of data back and forth between that without Wi-Fi. I'll say it again. All audio MIDI can be transmitted between the iPad and the Mac through iConnectivity. Why is that important? Because often when you get to some of these foreign countries, there's no Wi-Fi. Well, what do you do then? So this way I can still work. This being Bluetooth, this being USB, this being connected through the iConnectivity, there's no worry about needing Wi-Fi. I can still work. Unless, of course, my computer's down, which it is. So, that is the basic setup a film composer would need. I can work in Cubase, I can work in Sibelius, I can work in Pro Tools, all from right here. And that's the system. People often ask me, what would I add to my travel rig? I would probably add another monitor right here. But if I did that, I would use an iPad Pro, and there's a program which I will link to that allows you to send via Wi-Fi a video. Now there's the problem right there, is that the Wi-Fi signal, if you're in a country that has no Wi-Fi, you basically won't have your second monitor. But most nice hotels do have Wi-Fi, so I would imagine a second monitor right here, maybe an iPad Pro, like I said, about like right here. So I would have 2 monitors. That's probably one of the biggest things that composers deal with the challenge of travel rig. So that's it. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like this subject, and I'll see you for the next video. For now, goodbye from Cancun, Mexico.